year before, a similar phantom ride was made crossing the Tay Bridge. The journey starts on the south side at St Fort as the bioscope train sets out across the famous bridge with its tragic associations. An old showman from South Wales once told me that he used to do a commentary as if this were the bridge that fell down on the 28th of December 1879 in a massive storm. The fact that the cinema wasn't invented till 15 years later and the original bridge was single track didn't seem to bother those early naive audiences. He would explain how the immense bridge, opened in 1878, was used by Queen Victoria, who made a journey shortly after it had opened, and how on that night in 1879, the Edinburgh to Dundee train set out across the first part of the bridge shortly after 7 o'clock in the evening, in the teeth of a furious gale. This Wheatley North British 440 express engine is the very class that hauled the train on that fatal night. As the train entered the high girders that formed the central section of the bridge, there was a brilliant flash of light and then total darkness. The entire train, carrying with it a major part of the central girders, had been swept into the river below, taking with it 75 passengers and the 2 footplate men. None survived. Being encased in the high girders, the locomotive was protected and later recovered more or less intact. Incredibly, it was restored, and number 224 went back to work again on the North British line. Despite the terrible disaster, with typical Victorian persistence, a new bridge was soon built alongside the old one, the bridge that we've just crossed, which still survives to this day on the route north to Dundee and Aberdeen. Now a chance to look again at this very rare phantom ride. The 2 Thomas Wheatley North British inside cylinder 440 locomotives were originally built in 1871. Not surprisingly, they became known as the Tay Bridge class. Number 224 remained at the bottom of the river for 3 months and then displayed a remarkable reluctance to leave the Tay mud. The chain broke on the first attempt to bring the engine back on land, and she sank back into the river. 2 days later, when finally suspended between 2 salvage craft, the lifting tackle broke, and 224 sank to the bottom of the Tay for the 3rd time. When finally beached and restored, the locomotive was not exactly popular at first with engine crews crossing the Tay Bridge, so number 224 worked mainly in the Glasgow area, until on the 28th of December 1908, nearly 30 years after the disaster, the spell was broken, and she worked the very same down train on a Sunday night across the new Tay Bridge to Dundee. She was not scrapped until 1919. With their big spectacles and very open footplates, we can look again at the old Tay Bridge class in action, as they once were well over 100 years ago. Another variation on